That's a whole nother side of it that, you don't really talk about, is like the interaction with the consumer, you know what I mean? Because we sell to, over 20 restaurants in New Orleans. So once a week, me or Becks are going into the city, and I mean, we fill up the back of our trucks and like need more room. That's how much stuff we're bringing into the city each week. And so like these chefs are becoming like our friends, our pals, and I think our approach to growing stuff, like there's a lot of big, type of vegetable farms that aren't organic in our area. And one thing I feel about the local food system, like in Louisiana, or maybe just our area in South Louisiana, is that the price is just really low because of not only the history that we've come from in agriculture, like in this region of just cheap labor and machinery and all that stuff, but yeah, like you go to other places and the cost of that same vegetable is a lot higher. And so like we have to really like market ourselves and convince these chefs like our product is better, not necessarily better, because like I have a lot of farmer friends who do farm like that, older farmers who've been doing it for like generations, you know what I mean, and that kind of wisdom, like totally respect and stuff. But I think that like we have to differentiate ourselves to those chefs because our price is a lot higher. And so I feel like our approach has been like grow the weirdest things, grow the most interesting things to us. What do we like to grow? I mean, there's some things we grow that we're like, we're doing this because of, this person wants it. But most of the time it's like, the first year we farmed here, we picked like the weirdest peppers. I think we planted over like 20 tomato varieties, you know what I mean? Like, and then we have to go to the chefs and say like, this is a product that grows really well here. We're growing it in this way. And like, that's your job. Like make it take, you know what I mean? Like if I was a chef, I'd be wanting to get things that were super interesting and different and new and like grown in this kind of way. And so like, for example, we grow this cucumber called the CEO cucumber. It's a Chinese variety. It's a long, thin cucumber, super sweet, not a ton of seeds, but super crunchy. You don't need to peel it. And it's just absolutely delicious. And it's very weird looking though. I mean, not weird, but just not like a normal cucumber, I mean, that's why we like it, one of the reasons why. And cucumber is $1 a pound from most other local farms that are more industrialized, but we have to like, I couldn't, a 40-pound crate of cucumbers, like I'm not gonna kill my body picking up that for only $40, I'm not gonna do that. That's not a sustainable way of life, like you have to think about like just the physical aspect on your body for like, and so like we had to say, here's our product, here's the higher price, and like convince them to like buy it. And we've been growing that for like 2 years now, and we sell like basically around like 300 pounds a week. And in the spring last year we were harvesting like 800 pounds a week. So we kind of learned that lesson. We're like, we need to like not plant as much because that's way too much. I mean, but now they buy that from us and they pay that higher price. And so it's like, that's kind of how we have approached things. And I think it's hard but super rewarding to get to work with those chefs and like for us to build that like trust and that relationship. And the same thing with the Roselle, like kind of planted too much. Now we have a lot of it, but I'm like, this is such a cool product. Like I go, go into the chefs, I'm like, this is such a cool product. Like if I were y'all, I'd be like dying to make like all the different kinds of stuff with it because you can't buy that anywhere else. And it's just, if the fact that it grows so well, I think like things are hard to grow in our region, That's the hard part. Like farming isn't just growing the stuff. Like you have to go market it, and it could be super difficult. But I think that that's kind of been our, our way, is to not convince people, but to show people like how beautiful that crop is, and to show them like, hey, like this works for us. Like this grows really well for us. And we want to be a supplier, like, because that's what a lot of chefs say. They're like, this isn't, like, local food isn't, like, reliable or consistent, you know what I mean? But you have to think, like, the things that you might want a farmer to grow might not be something suitable for our climate. So when I work with chefs who, like, appreciate that we're bringing that to the table, I think that's really cool. I mean, and also, like, customers, like the farmers market, too. But you definitely have to convince people. Like I grew that Louisiana long green eggplant one year at the farmer's market, and everybody was coming up being like, what is this? What is this? And they thought it wasn't right, but that's just the variety. It's a green eggplant. And I grew it because, Louisiana, let's go. Like, but, it's challenging to have to like have that conversation 50 times in a market, so, but then over time, people know us as those people with the cucumbers, you know what I mean? Or those people with the whatever that we have that they really liked that one time. So, you know, the challenging but fun other aspects of juggling something like this too. It's more than just the soil and the actually growing things, but yeah, having to lug it around and market yourself is a whole nother skill ball game, you know. People ask us this question a lot, like, do you grow more flowers, do you grow more vegetables? It's kind of hard to say like what we have more of in the ground, because you know, vegetables take up a different kind of space, you know, to grow them. And you can grow a lot of flowers in the same amount of fields that I have, you know, for vegetables. Like I can grow 180 by 100 field of flowers, and that's like a lot of flowers, where I take like 380 by 100 fields, and that's how many vegetables I have for like consistent supplies of certain crops. Like, you know, for the restaurants and stuff we work with, we want to have arugula every week. We want to have those things every week type thing. Where with flowers, it's like you can, in the same plot, the 80 by 100 plot, you can grow like that for the course of the season, and that would be like enough. So yeah, we grow, you know, sometimes equal, some generally more vegetables, but the flowers really do help support our farm. You know, when we got into farming, both of us, we came from like wanting to farm vegetables. And then when I worked on a flower farm one summer, I kind of started seeing like, I was like, oh, I've grown flowers. Like, why would you do that when you can grow like food to feed people? But I really got to see like a different type of a form of agriculture, like a different income stream and a different addition, like ecologically, to a space. And so that kind of gave me more of this like mindset of like having both of them is a really beautiful combination, not only to help, you know, support, like bring diversity to the farm, like financially, so it's not just relying on one type of crop or one type of market, I guess. You're kind of having that diversity of like, well, this crop, vegetable crop, didn't really work out well, but we're having this beautiful flush of this flower coming in that we know people are going to buy. And so it's, and it toggles between both of those scenarios. So I think that was kind of more of our mindset, like how can we diversify the farm enough to be able to, you know, support us financially. So if, you know, one thing fails or we have like a bad year of one thing, we have something else coming in, and flowers just felt kind of like a natural aspect of that. And then you get into the whole ecological aspect of it. Like these fields when they're blooming, like there's nothing more magical than like walking up and they're just covered in like butterflies and, you know, and moths, you know, sometimes that you don't want, but you know, it's just got so much going on, and that happens in the vegetables too, but you know, in different smaller ways. And so I think having the flowers helps create a home for a lot of those beneficials and a food source, to where then they can help contribute to the pest pressure that we have on the vegetables too, and pest pressure we have on the flowers, because sometimes the pests are very similar. So I think that just helps, you know, create a home for those good bugs to then help us defeat the bad ones in the vegetables. And then, yeah, from a financial standpoint, you know, you make, I think, a lot more money from growing flowers like per acre than you do maybe vegetables. And I think that aspect of it is, you know, obviously important, but, you know, sometimes we have this conversation too where we're like, if we took all the energy that we have from growing vegetables to just only growing flowers, like maybe we would, I don't know, have more money, be more financially stable, or maybe work less, you know, like less on your bodies, like, you know, picking up a bucket of flowers versus picking up 40 pounds of cukes, you know, those small things you start to think about over time more. But I think that we want them to exist together in our farm. Like, even though growing pumpkins might not be the most financially like profitable thing per that you know, for that acreage, for the amount of work they are, it's like having something like a good crop of flowers can help us support maybe the vegetables that don't make as much money per whatever. And so that we can still grow those things, that we can still invest time in those things, and that we can still have value in those things, but then our operation is being like holistically supported in different ways. And so I think that's how we kind of view it. Like, we're not like, you know, let's get rid of all the vegetables so we can just like be rich or something. I think, like, not to say that you would be rich off of growing flowers, but they definitely hold like a higher value, you know, for the amount of work. And so I think that we just see it more as how do we make this system like more holistic and, you know, like we want to be surrounded by beauty like in our lives too, you know, that's another aspect of it. So when we started the farm, we were both living in New Orleans. We were traveling up to Hammond, which is about an hour away, every weekend, and working like all weekend. So we were working full-time jobs in New Orleans and then kind of building the farm up on the weekends, which I would not suggest to anybody. We started off doing that, and then we were like, this isn't gonna work. Like, you know, this is too difficult. If we were like really close to the farm, we probably could have gone into that, you know, kept doing that longer, but being an hour away, like, you know, it's 2 hours each way. So we don't have any buildings on the farm, like houses or anything. So we were just, you know, spending all day outside too, you know, without AC and, you know, without breaks. So it was just kind of like, we need to figure out something different. And that's when we kind of just decided, like, let's figure out a way to quit our jobs or become part-time so that we can really like give this thing its full, you know, full chance to like thrive. And I would say that wasn't like an educated decision in terms of like, you need this much money to live, you have this much money saved up. I think we were just kind of, you know, young and dumb in a way. And so, not really, but, you know, we had that like young ambition of like feeling fearless maybe in a way, or just being willing to try something and fail. And we quit our jobs at 8 months, starting the farm, and we just kind of dove into it full time. And we felt like like how the community was responding to the farm and how our customers were responding to the farm felt really encouraging. Like, wow, people are actually buying this stuff. Like, wow, people are actually reaching out to us and saying like, you know, hey, I want to buy some of your stuff, or I'd love to work with you guys. And that was just, I think all those things together, and just maybe also the joy of like actually harvesting the thing that you have put so much work into, we felt like super energized and decided to quit our jobs. And at that point, we had to change our mindset around the farm. Like, it wasn't just something that we were doing on the weekends, but it had to be the thing that supported our lives. Getting into the no-till grant really helped with getting supplies like tarps and stuff, like things that we wouldn't have been able to buy in the beginning, but were kind of essential for us to get started and do well. Just having that grant program like gave us that extra like push forward. Our farm supports 2 full-time employees, me and Becks. We get paid each month, so we don't get paid like at the end of the year when if we have any left over. No, each month we get like we're employees of the farm essentially, and we have 1 part-time employee now, which is super helpful. And our farm has health care, so those kind of things were, you know, they didn't feel like choices. They felt like we have to make this work like that. And so that's kind of how we've been able to support ourselves, and we're hoping to, you know, always continue growing that, and not only growing that for ourselves, but for the people who work here. Like, I think our goal is like, we don't want to profit off of people's labor. We want them to feel like they have all their needs met too. You know, we want to hopefully one day get to the point, like, I think our goal isn't to like, you know, stockpile like a bunch of money or anything, but to make sure that our employees have health care, and to make sure like we all have what we need to be like healthy and thriving and stuff. And so I think that's kind of what we were working towards, and, you know, working towards like working less, you know, and being able to have more time for our friends and family and just for ourselves. But we did, you know, our first year, I can't remember exactly what we did in sales, but by year 2, we were like $180,000 in sales. And a lot of that gets invested back into the infrastructure of our farm. So it's not like, you know, there's a lot of crop failures. We got to order more seed, or like build the fences or build structures. So that doesn't like come out to being like some large amount of money. But it just knowing that it could work like that felt encouraging. Like, we can make this a viable income, and, you know, it can support multiple people, and it's really hard too. Like, I'm not trying to say that to make it seem like, oh, we're all good. Like, we're constantly trying to think through like, how can we have 3 months of, you know, in case there's a hurricane that knocks out our farm, we need to have like 3 months of operating costs. You know, those kind of things are constantly on our minds, and we live in the climate is changing so much that it feels like, you know, you can have one good year and then you can have a really bad year. And so I think that's kind of something that we're trying to build into the future of our farm, is how can we withstand those impacts. not only like, you know, our structures being strong and our plants being strong, but like, you know, our business being strong. I got one thing to say and then I'm done.
Let's do it.
Okay, I feel like this is not like a good job for everybody. Like it's a lot of work. It's a lot of physical labor. You have to like be outside, waking up early. And I think for Becks and I, it felt less like a job and more like a calling. And that's kind of goes back to our name, Cicada Calling. It's like, I think that we could have chosen a lot of different other jobs or careers that could have put us in a different position in life, but we chose this for a reason. And it's really important for us to like invest in our community, invest in Louisiana, especially when so much of our state is being consumed by industries that are destroying our communities. And so I think it's important for us as young farmers and people who are from here to show other people that there is a future that isn't built on that we can create different economies that support ourselves and our community and the environment. And so, you know, I definitely like encourage people to give this a try and to also recognize that, you know, it is a huge commitment and a lot of work, and that you have to really love what you do, because it's going to test every bit of your patience, you know. But I think that's just kind of for us, like, you know, everything's a choice, but some things just feel like right, you know, and at home. And I think that being farmers that's what that is for us. And so that was one of the reasons we chose Cicada Calling. And it was cute, but you know, people ask that all the time. They're like, what's up with that name? I'm like, well, I mean, we were just like sitting outside. They're outside all the time, and I don't know, the metaphysical aspect of, you know, just farming as a calling for us. So that's it.